Hello everyone and welcome back to our virtual Mishnah Berurah share. We're holding Mishnah Berurah Chelik Aleph and we will be learning today Mitzvah Hashem Daf Ches Amud Beis. We are continuing to learn the halachas of the Netilas Yadayim that we began yesterday, and we pick up on the bottom of Ches Amud Aleph, Siman Daled Sif Aleph. We are up to the words of the Ramah, but it's only several words here at the beginning of the Sif of the Mechaber, so we'll just read it for context. Said the Mechaber, Yirchatz Yadav v'yavarech al Netilas Yadayim. We learned yesterday that upon arising in the morning, we're supposed to wash our hands, colloquially known as Negelvasser, Netilas Yadayim. We wash our hands, v'yavarech al Netilas Yadayim, and we make a bracha al Netilas Yadayim. Now, we saw yesterday the two primary reasons given by the Rishonim for this washing of the hands in the morning. The Rosh says that when a person sleeps, Yadayim shel Adam askani hein, a person's hands are naturally busy. They move around and they touch things. Therefore, says the Rosh, it's inevitable that during the course of the night, the hands will have come into contact with parts of the body that are normally covered, a makam mechusa, a makam mitunaf, and now a person has to wash his hands so that he should be able to say Kriya Shema b'kabel ol malchus shamayim, and he should be able to stand in front of the Rebbeinu Shalom for tefillah. That was the rationale of the Rosh for the Netilas Yadayim. The Rashba, on the other hand, gave a different reason. The Rashba said that, like the pasuk says, Chadoshim la bekarim rabbe emunasecha, the Bria is mechadesh b'chol yom. Every day the Rebbeinu Shalom renews and refreshes Bria sa'olam, and together with that, the Rebbeinu Shalom renews us. Therefore, every morning we are a Bria Chadasha. We're a new Bria. Like I said yesterday, people say, how old are you? People say 50. Well, not really. I'm a day old or 12 hours old or whatever it is. The Rebbeinu Shalom, so to speak, recreated me this morning. You're a Bria Chadasha. Rabbe Munasecha, great is the faithfulness of the Rebbeinu Shalom, that he returns our neshamatas and renews our creation every day. And therefore, the Rashba said, we have to thank the Rebbeinu Shalom for this, and especially before we go to embark on another day of Avodas Hashem, and before we come to be Mispal, which is our Avodah, Unishal Mapar Mitzvasenu, our davening stands in the place of the Avodah in the Beis HaMikdash. So the same way the Kohen would go to the Kiyar and wash his hands from a keli, he would wash his feet too, from the Kiyar, so too when we're a Bria Chadasha in the morning, and we're about to embark on another day, a fresh day of Avodas Hashem, we have to go and we have to wash for that, and on that washing, we make a bracha. So there we had the reason of the Rosh, the reason of the Rashba. Later on, we'll get on to the Zoyar about the Ruach Ra, that there's a Ruach Ra that rests on the fingers while we're sleeping, and in order to remove that Ruach Ra, we have to wash from a keli 3 times on each hand. So that's what's behind Netilas Yadayim. Now we come to the Ramah. The Ramah says, well, the Mechaber just told you that you wash Netilas Yadayim, and you make a bracha, you wash Netilas Yadayim, and you make a bracha, Asher Kiddishanu b'mitzvaysav v'tzivanu al Netilas Yadayim. Adds the Ramah, v'yeshayim, there are those that say, Gam Asher Yotzar. Not only do we have to make a bracha of al Netilas Yadayim in the morning, but we also have to make a bracha of Asher Yotzar in the morning. Continues the Ramah, Ches Amud Beis, Va'afil is the punchline of the Ramah, Va'afilu loy asa tzrachav. This bracha of Asher Yotzar that the Ramah is saying that we make in the morning is not the same as the regular Asher Yotzar bracha that you make several times during the day. Every time you use the facilities and you come out, you make a bracha of Asher Yotzar. This bracha of Asher Yotzar is really a different Asher Yotzar. This Asher Yotzar, says the Ramah, is an Asher Yotzar that's part of Birchas HaShachar that does not really directly relate to using the Beis HaKisei. This is a Birchas HaShachar. You have to make a bracha of Asher Yotzar. Let's take a look here in the Mishnah Berurah. Says the Mishnah Berurah, bottom of Ches Amud Aleph, Eis Katan Gimel. Gam Asher Yotzar. You have to make it Asher Yotzar. Hatam. What's the reason for this Asher Yotzar that the Ramah says you would make an Asher Yotzar afilu loy asa tzrachav, even if you didn't use the facilities. What is this Asher Yatzar? Explains the Chafetz Chaim, bottom of Chesam and Aleph, Hatam, Mishum de Baboiker, Nasa Kibriya Chadasha. This is similar to what we said in the name of the Rashba when it comes to the Tilas Yadayim. In the morning, you're a Briya Chadasha, you're a new creation. Therefore, says the Chafetz Chaim, Utzrichen anu lahaydaslai, we have to thank the Rabbeinu Shalom for this recreation. V'niskan berachas Elokai neshama. So we have a bracha of Elokai neshama, and it's apparent that there are a couple of words missing here from the text of the Chafetz Chaim that appear in a lot of later texts. Matter of fact, I think the Dirshu print actually has these words in brackets. Yes, it v'niskan berkas Elokai neshama al haneshama. We have a bracha in Berkas HaShachar Elokai neshama shenosatabi, where we thank the Rabbeinu Shalom for the neshama. Vayipach ba'apav nishmas chayim. The Rabbeinu Shalom blew into us a chelek elikim mimal, a ruchnius tika neshama. So we're a Briya Chadash in the morning. We make a bracha of Elokai neshama to thank the Rabbeinu Shalom for the neshama. Va'asher yatzar al yitziras haguf. Likewise, we make a bracha of Asher yatzar afilu loy asa tzrachav. Even if you did not use the Beis HaKisei, you still have to make a bracha of Asher yatzar to thank the Rabbeinu Shalom for the creation of the guf. So we are this duality. We are a creation that's comprised of Gashmias, a guf, Ruchnias, the neshama. This is the great Melchama that the Mesilas Yesharim tells us about, that a person is in a constant state of Melchama between the Gashmiastic guf that wants to pull you towards Gashmias, the Ruchniastic neshama that wants to pull you up towards Ruchnias. We are this strange creation, very similar, I would say, to a lot of other things, very similar to the Barad by Mitzrayim. It's Eish and Mayim. The Rosh Hashanah had to make a nace that the Eish and the Shemayim should be able to coexist in the Barad. I always say the Aron HaKodesh, the Luchais Shniyais. The stone of the Luchais was Masa Moshe. It was made by Moshe Rabbeinu. Psal Lecha, Shnei Luchais Avanim. The Rebbeinu Shalom instructed Moshe Rabbeinu, you go quarry the stones for the Luchais. V'amichtav, Michtav Elikibu, Charas ala Luchais. So it's Ruchnias and Gashmias. That's what we are. We're Briya Chadasha every morning. We have to make a kind of shama to thank the Rabbeinu Shalom for the Ruchnias component. And we also make an Asher Yatzar to thank the Rabbeinu Shalom for the Gashmiastic component. V'yesh oid taimim acherim. The Mishnah Berurah says there are other reasons as well for why it is that we would make an Asher Yatzar in the morning without using the facilities, ayin ba'achroinim. There are different reasons brought down. Some reasons that are brought down are that we have to make an Asher Yatzar because to a certain degree, until we wash our hands in the morning, we don't have use of our full body because we're not allowed to touch the openings of the body. So we don't, in a certain way, we don't have the full use of them. We can't put something in our mouth. We can't go clean our nose because can't touch our eyes until we wash the Tilas Yadayim. So to a certain extent, we don't have full use of the guf until we wash the Tilas Yadayim. So after we wash the Tilas Yadayim, we make a bracha of Asher Yatzar to thank the Rabbeinu Shalom that we now have full use of the body again. So there are other reasons brought down why you would make an Asher Yatzar in the morning. Afilu loy asa tzrachav. Now, let's just pop back into the words of the Ramah for a moment before we go further in the Mishnah Berurah. The Ramah finishes this statement that he says, V'chein nagu. So the Ramah says that indeed this is the minik, that you would make an Asher Yatzar in the morning as part of your Birkas HaShachar, even if you did not use the facilities. Now, a word of caution when it comes to that halacha. That is, what we're seeing is like this. The basic understanding of Asher Yatzar is you would use the facilities in the morning, and then you would make an Asher Yatzar. The Ramah is suggesting, and he says, V'chein nagu, in the name of the Abu Darham, that you would make an Asher Yatzar as part of your Birchas HaShachar, even if you did not use the facilities. What does that mean? That means somebody gets up in the morning, he goes, he washes Negavaser. Let's say he has no need to use the facilities. He goes to shul, he's going to make an Al Natilas Yadayim and an Asher Yatzar. Okay, even though he didn't use the facilities, so what? We have a Ramah here, right? The Ramah says, Afilu lo yoseh tzracha v'chei nagu. That's fine. But now let's say this happens. Let's say somebody gets up in the morning, washes Negavaser, uses the facilities, and then, as is his habit throughout the rest of the day, he makes an Asher Yatzar when he comes out of the Beis HaKisei. Now he goes to shul. He starts saying Birchas HaShachar. He makes it on Natilas Yadayim, and then he starts making an Asher Yatzar. And then he catches himself and he says, wait, what am I making an Asher Yatzar on? When I used the Beis HaKisei this morning, I made an Asher Yatzar when I came out. So what am I making an Asher Yatzar on now? Oh, it's okay. I could finish the bracha anyway, because there's a Ramah that says that you make an Asher Yatzar as part of the Birchas HaShachar, even if you didn't use the facilities. Not in this case. Because in this case, you already made an Asher Yatzar this morning. You made an Asher Yatzar after you used the facilities. But that Asher Yatzar is going to fill both the need to make the Asher Yatzar that you customarily make after you use the Beis HaKisei, and also the need to make an Asher Yatzar for the morning, for the Birchas HaShachar. You have no rationale to go make a second Asher Yatzar now this morning, even though you didn't use the facilities now. The Ramah's rationale for making an Asher Yatzar without using the facilities is if you did not use the facilities at all this morning, and you're making an Asher Yatzar as part of the Birchas HaShachar. But if you already made an Asher Yatzar this morning after you used the Beis HaKisei, now there's no rationale to make a second Asher Yatzar without using the facilities, so you would not be allowed to complete that Asher Yatzar. Just want to make sure everybody understands that. Now let's go back into the Mishnah Berurah. The Kosav Pri Begadim, the Pri Begadim writes, De Lefia Tam de Bria Chadasha, according to this rationale for making an Asher Yatzar in the morning, that you're a Bria Chadasha and you have to thank the Rabbeinu Shalom for the Bria of the Guf, Im Hayaneir Kol Alayla, if somebody did not sleep at all at night, Da'az Loi Nasa Bria Chadasha Babliker, so that he never became a Bria Chadasha. He didn't sleep. Ein Yochel Levarach Asher Yatzar Lo Yoseh Tzrachav. So again, the Mishnah Berurah, the Ramah said, there is a possible rationale for making an Asher Yatzar as part of Birchas HaShachar, even if you did not use the facilities. Points out the Pri Megadim, right, that would not hold true if you are up the whole night. Because the only rationale for making an Asher Yatzar without using the facilities is to thank the Rabbeinu Shalom for becoming a Bria Chadasha, or a renewed creation. But if you didn't sleep at night, you didn't become a renewed creation. So then there's no basis to make an Asher Yatzar unless you used the facilities. Okay. Yeshar, remember, there are those that say, if somebody awoke in the middle of the night and went to the Beis HaKisei to urinate, which is very common, so somebody wakes up 2 o'clock in the morning, he uses the facilities, urinates. Now, there are those that say, instead of making an Asher Yatzar at 2 o'clock in the morning, which sometimes could entail complications, he has to dress himself properly, he has to at least put something on and tie a belt or do something else to be mafsik between his lave and the makom ha'erva. Certainly he has to make sure his hands are clean. He has to make sure he's in a clean place. So there are those that suggest, instead of making the Asher Yatzar at 2 o'clock in the morning, don't make an Asher Yatzar now, and rely on the Asher Yatzar that you're going to make in the morning. Says the Mishnah Berurah, V'tzarech iyun lidina. Halacha l'maisa, he says, this needs iyun. And there's many reasons why it could be problematic. The Mishnah Berurah points out one right now. Gam pa'amim rabbis yikra shebabayka b'shtoikik adab hamla tolos meraglayim. First of all, if you awoke at 2 o'clock in the morning and you used the Beis HaKisei, and you don't make an Asher Yatzar now because you're relying on the Asher Yatzar that you're going to make in the morning, but what happens if you wake up in the morning and you need to use the Beis HaKisei again? We're going to see later, we're going to see later in Siman Zayin that if somebody uses the Beis HaKisei and he neglects to make an Asher Yotzar, and he remembers an hour later, I never made an Asher Yotzar, he could still make an Asher Yotzar now. But what if a person used the Beis HaKisei, an hour later, he didn't make an Asher Yotzar, an hour later, he realizes he has the need to use the Beis HaKisei. He goes to the Beis HaKisei and he says, Oy vey, I used the Beis HaKisei an hour ago and I didn't make an Asher Yotzar. Now he can't make an Asher Yotzar. Since he needs to use the facilities again now, he can no longer make an Asher Yotzar on his use of the facilities an hour previous. So says the Mishnah Berurah, the idea that you're going to urinate at 2 o'clock in the morning and rely on the Asher Yotzar that you're going to make tomorrow morning, what happens if in the morning you wake up, which is very common, and you need the Beis HaKisei upon awakening? Now you could no longer make an Asher Yotzar on the previous time that you used the Beis HaKisei at 2 o'clock in the morning, and the Asher Yotzar that you're going to make on using the Beis HaKisei now cannot cover both. So this is like a Ma'uvas Shelo Yuchal Liskoin. This is like missing a tefillah and there's no tashlumin. You lost it. You didn't make an Asher Yotzar and you can't make one now. Therefore, says the Mishnah Berurah, V'yirei Shamayim Yachmer al Atzmai, a Yirei Shamayim should rule stringently. V'yital Yadav, and if he does use the Beis HaKisei in the middle of the night, he should wash his hands. V'yilboish Michnasayim, and put on some kind of pants. O Yachgar B'shar Davar, or if he's wearing, let's say, like a nightshirt, tie some kind of a belt, Lahafsik Be Libay La Erva, to be mafsik between his heart and the Makom Erva, or at least take his arms and clutch himself between the heart and the Makom Erva. V'yavarek Asher Yotzar, and he should make an Asher Yotzar. However, and the Chavetz Chaim, remember, Chavetz Chaim is coming from his perspective of pre-war Radin. Yira Beis HaBracha, you have to take care that when you make the Asher Yotzar, laharchik me'ha'abit shal ha'mei raglayim, you have to go away from the keli that's holding the mei raglayim. They didn't have, flushable toilets. Arba amos, you have to stay at least 4 amos away from the chamber pot, imu oimid b'chadroi, if it's in the same room as you. If this was some kind of a keli that wasn't designated as a chamber pot to hold urine, so then if it's a chamber pot, if it's something that's designated for meraglayim, you have to distance yourself 4 amos away from it in order to make a bracha. But let's say it's just a keli, it's whatever keli you had handy, and you urinated into it, technically you could pour a revius of mayim into it, and then you could go ahead and make a bracha right over there. So again, to tie up, what did we say over here? We have the suggestion that it's possible that we have to make an Asher Yotzar in the morning, even if you don't use the facilities, just as part of the Birchas HaShachar, to thank the Rabbeinu Shalom for the Bria Chadasha of the Guf. Alakai Neshama is a thank you to the Rabbeinu Shalom for the recreation of the Ruchnius component, the Neshama. The Asher Yotzar is a thank you to the Rabbeinu Shalom for the recreation of the Gashmiistic component of the Guf. Okay. Then said the Mishnah Berurah over here, obviously that logic would not apply if you were up the whole night. If you were up the whole night, you weren't Nasik Bria Chadasha. If you weren't Nasik Bria Chadasha, there's no rationale to make an Asher Yotzar without having used the facilities. And we're going to talk about this more as we continue. Then the Mishnah Berurah interjected over here, and he said, what happens if you wake up in the middle of the night? So there are those that are of the opinion that if you wake up in the middle of the night and you use the facilities, you don't have to make an Asher Yotzar right then and there. You could rely on the Asher Yotzar that you're going to make in the morning. Says the Mishnah Berurah, that's problematic. He brings down one reason why it's problematic, which is that if you don't make the Asher Yotzar right here and now in the middle of the night, and you wait for the morning, what happens if when you wake up in the morning you need to use the facilities again? Now you could no longer make the Asher Yotzar on the previous use of the facilities that took place in the middle of the night. So you lost that bracha. Therefore, says the Mishnah Berurah, what should you do? You should be machmir. You should wash your hands. You should make sure that you're in a situation where you're ready to make a bracha, right? Put on something, have a belt to be mafsik between the Lev and the Erva, and go ahead and make the bracha. Now, let's go to Sif Daled. The Ramah said, we have this suggestion to make it Asher Yotzar as part of the Birchas HaShachar, even if you didn't use the facilities. Says the Mishnah Berurah Cut and Dalet, V'aroitza lehistalik min hasafik. What do you do if you don't want to be stuck in this suffix situation? I'm up in the morning, I didn't use the facilities, should I make it Asher Yotzar, should I not make it Asher Yotzar? V'aroitza lehistalik min hasafik. Yizayir should take care, la'asais tzrachav tekef achar she'era mayim al yadav shalish pa'amim. He should get up in the morning. He should wash the tilas yadayim 3 times each hand from a keli, because remember what we said earlier. The Mishnah Berurah told us earlier, I think it was in Siman Aleph, that we have to make sure to wash our hands right away in the morning to remove the ruach ra from our hands. We have to do that right away. Right? He told us over here, brought down from the Shla, no, not from the Shla, I'm sorry. Brought down from the Zayar, how careful we have to be to wash the tilas yadayim right away in the morning to get the ruach ra off of our hands. So says the Mishnah Berurah, get up right away, wash your hands, then asa tzrachav, use the facilities. Ukishiyetze mibeisakise yitol yadav pam shniya. Now you have to wash your hands again because you just used the facilities. So you have to clean your hands. V'yavarech Asher Yotzar, and make an Asher Yotzar. V'yetze yidei chayva l'kulei alma. And now you're yotza all of the shitas. You're going ahead and you're making an Asher Yotzar because you used the facilities. And you're also making an Asher Yotzar very soon after awakening to be yotza this idea that you have to make an Asher Yotzar as part of the Birchas HaShachar to thank the Ribbono Shel Olam for the fact that you're a Bria Chadasha. So what the Mishnah Berurah is saying is like this. He's saying this concept of washing your hand, of making an Asher Yotzar as part of the Birchas HaShachar to thank the Ribbono Shel Olam for the recreation of the guf, that's something that clearly has to be done very soon after awakening. It doesn't pass to thank the Ribbono Shel Olam for making you a Bria Chadasha 3 hours after you get up. Certainly, it's something that should be done right away. So, says the Mishnah Berurah, what do you do to be yaitza all the shitas? What you do is get up, wash negel vasa, take off the ruach hatumah, use the facilities, wash your hands again so that you can make a bracha, and now make an Asher Yotzar. You thanking the Ribbono Shel Olam for the Bria Chadasha, and you're also doing it after having used the facilities, so you have no problem. Continues the Mishnah Berurah, v'toiv yoiser. Shalo Yavarach afilu birchas netilas yadayim ad la'acher netilas shniya shenoital acher yitziyasai mi beis hakisei. He says over here, brings us down from a Magen Avram, which is a little bit difficult to understand. He says that the best thing is always that you should make the al netilas yadayim not just after having washed negel vaser. You should wash negel vaser, use the facilities, then wash your hands a second time, and make the al netilas yadayim then. Certainly, what happens if you get up in the morning, you have negel vaser next to your bed. You have a negel vaser shissel, and you have negel vaser right next to your bed. So you go wash negel vaser. You're going to make an al netilas yadayim now? What if you need to use the facilities? If you need to use the facilities, and very often when you wake up in the morning, you have a strong need to use the facilities, can't wait 72 minutes, so you're going to go make a bracha? You're not allowed to make a bracha now. So you have to go use the basic kisei. Once you use the basic kisei, you have to wash your hands the second time in order to be able to make a bracha. So you should make the al netilas yadayim after that. Because if you need to use the facilities, you can't make a bracha. The Chai Adam writes, you should wait to make the bracha al netilas yadayim until you use the facilities so that you have a guf naki, and you're ready to daven. Ayin sham taimai, he says, take a look at the Chai Adam for the tam. Well, the rationale is very simple. The rationale is in order to be mekayim the shitas harosh. Remember, what did the Rosh say the tam of al netilas yadayim is? The tam of al netilas yadayim is because yadayim askani yosein, your hands touch the makom achus on the body, and now you have to wash the tilas yadayim in preparation of Kriya Shema and Tefillah. Therefore, says the Chai Adam, what are you going to do? You're going to get up in the morning, wash the Netilas Yadayim, use the facilities, wash again, make a bracha on the Netilas Yadayim. Now, what if you're not davening for another hour and a half? What if you have a seder to learn Daf Yomi? First, you're going to go to the Daf Yomi share. So you're going to go to the Daf Yomi share. You're going to drink a coffee by the Daf Yomi share. And after the Daf Yomi share, what are you going to do? You're going to go to the Beis HaKisei again. And after you come out of the Beis HaKisei, what are you going to do? You're going to wash your hands again. If so, it comes out, says the Chai Adam, that the Netilas Yadayim that you did in the morning was not preparatory to Kriya Shema and Tefillah, because between that Netilas Yadayim that you washed from your Negavash Shissel next to your bed in the morning, and between that and when you finally got up to Kriya Shema and Tefillah, you washed your hands again. So that first washing that you did was not preparatory to Tefillah. So that's not the Netilas Yadayim of the Rosh. It's the later Netilas Yadayim. The one after you use the facilities, after the coffee by the Daf Yomi share. That's the washing that's preparatory to the Tefillah. Therefore, says the Chai Adam, don't make the bracha on Netilas Yadayim until then. Now you went to the bathroom, you came out, you washed your hands. Now you're ready to go daven. Now make it on Netilas Yadayim. So says the Chai Adam, and the Mishnah Berurah says, he says that this was the meaning of the Gra, V'ayin Be'Be'er Halacha. There's a lengthy Be'er Halacha here. Take a look at Yarach HaShulchan. Yarach HaShulchan disputes this quite strongly. And the Yarach HaShulchan has it seems to be a convincing argument. The Yarach HaShulchan says like this, V're'isi l'g'daylim, I saw G'daylim, a.k.a. the Chai Adam, Shetafsu, who take the position, Deladas HaRosh, that according to the Shitas HaRosh, Behechrich lahasbich bracha zu l'tefillah. You have to make the Al Netilas Yadayim close to when you're ready to daven. Because, again, the logic of the Rosh would seem to be that you make the bracha on Netilas Yadayim on a washing that's preparatory to Kriya Shema and Tefillah. So it should be the washing that you do right before Kriya Shema and Tefillah. Well, and yes, Daiti, says the Yarach HaShulchan, Muchach me'arosh atzmai she'enei kain. The Yarach HaShulchan brings a raya from the words of the Rosh himself that this is not true. Sha'arei kosa b'tshuva klal daled siman aleph. He brings down from a Tshuvas HaRosh. Ve'eviu ator l'kamon seif siman mem zayin. And this Tshuvas HaRosh is quoted by the Torah in siman mem zayin v'zel l'shaynai. And this is what the Rosh writes. Ha'mashkim lilmoid kaidam alois hashachar. Somebody wakes up at 3 o'clock in the morning. He gets up before alois hashachar to learn. He has an early Daf Yomi share. His Daf Yomi share is 5 o'clock in the morning. Sometimes 5 o'clock is before Alois. So somebody gets up before Alois, and he's going to learn. He got up to learn. Yevarech on the Netilas Yadayim v'ashe yotzar. The Rosh says you got to wash. You have to make on the Netilas Yadayim, and you have to make ashe yotzar. Ad kan l'shaynai. Wait a second. V'harei adayin eino zman tefillah. You can't daven now if you wanted to. It's before Alois. V'hu yoshev lilmoid, and he's not ready to daven. He's sitting down by a Daf Yomi shir. V'im kol zeh mevarach on the Netilas Yadayim, and still the Rosh says you should wash on the Netilas Yadayim. Elavadai, obviously, that it's not true. Obviously, the Rosh does not hold that the Netilas Yadayim has to be made on the washing that was preparatory to Tefillah. The Rosh says that the whole rationale for the Netilas Yadayim is that Yadayim askani saying, and you have to wash the Netilas Yadayim before you daven. So it sounds very much from the Rosh like the bracha of Netilas Yadayim was niskan. It was decreed to be made on the washing that is preparatory to Tefillah. So what's going on here in the Rosh? On the one hand, he says you wash in the morning and you make on Netilas Yadayim because the Netilas Yadayim is preparatory to Tefillah. On the other hand, he says if you get up before Alois and you're getting up to learn, you make Al Netilas Yadayim, even though you're not going to daven for another 2 hours. So what's pshat? So the Aruch HaShulchan reconciles these two shittas. He says like this: Ella vadai de takanas habracha isa mishum tefillah. Indeed, according to the Rosh, the takana of Netilas Yadayim was because of tefillah, and the institution of the Chazal that you should make a bracha on that netilah is also preparatory to tefillah. But like the Chazal very often do, they made a takana based on a certain concept, and then they gave it a geder. They made a takana. Yadayim askani yasein, and therefore when you wake up in the morning, you must wash the tilas yadayim. Why? Because soon you're going to go say Kriya Shema and you're going to daven. So you must wash your hands, and you have to make a bracha on that washing of the hands. Fine. But once they made that takana, the geder that they gave for the takana is that washing and that bracha take place when? Right when you get up. That's when it's done. Even if you're not going to daven for another 2 hours. So vaday the takanas bracha isa mishum tefila ach tiknua sheyavarchem yad b'kuma mimitasai v'chein muchach me'arambam, and he says it's clear like this from the Rambam umei Gemara shetiknua bein brachas hashachar, because you see that the Rambam and the Gemara in brachas, they put the bracha on the tilas yadayim amongst the brachas hashachar, so it's part of the format of brachas hashachar even if you're not ready to say Kriya Shema and daven yet. V'chein ikar ladina. The Aruch HaShulchan says that is Iker Ladina, according to the Psak of the Aruch HaShulchan. You make the bracha on the tilas yadayim right away on the first washing that you do in the morning, not that you wait until the washing of the hands that you do as close to tefillah as possible. Okay. Now we go back up to the Shulchan Aruch, top line after the words of the Ramah, says the Mechaber, Mayim hapsulim l'netilas yadayim l'suda. Types of water that may not be used for netilas yadayim when you wash for a suda, when you wash over bread. L'kamon siman kof samach, like we're going to see, types of water that cannot be used for netilas yadayim for a suda. We'll discuss that in siman kof samach. Ksherim l'netilas yadayim l'tfila. These types of waters are still kosher for the netilas yadayim of the morning that you wash before davening. Miu, however, yesh b'shaimer, there are those that say deloy mavarach alayhu, that if you use those types of water, you would not make a bracha of al netilas yadayim. What's an example of such a type of water? Water that some agent fell into and caused the water to be discolored. You can't use water like that for netilas yadayim by a suda, but you could use it for netilas yadayim for tefillah. Why? Because the netilas yadayim for tefillah is for nikiyus. You just need a cleansing agent. You need water to clean your hands. So even if it's discolored water, that's fine. Netilas yadayim for the suda is based on the dinim of tum and tahara. That has a different din. Says the Mishnah Berurah, if you have water where the appearance of the water was changed through the addition of some kind of an agent, or you have water that was used for something, maluchim, or it's salted water, or sruchim, or stagnant water, that even a dog cannot drink from, but they're still usable for davening. It's just a cleansing agent. There are those that say that you wouldn't make a bracha, there are those that say that even if you do use such water for the netilas yadayim shel shachris, you would not make a bracha on netilas yadayim, rak al nikiyos yadayim. Instead of using the language, the nusach on the tilas yadayim, you would use the language of on the kiyos yadayim. Aiskat zayin alayu va'achreinim echriyu. The achreinim reached the conclusion to yuchal levarach on the tilas yadayim that you can make the bracha on the tilas yadayim. Va'il kamamis of zayin of Mishnah Berurah sivkat te zayin, which we will see as we continue weiter. Okay, we're going to stop over here. Thank you so much for joining me for Liman HaTorah. Discuss of Liman HaTorah should be megan against Klal Yisrael. The Rabban Shem should say Yeshua's for us, Parnasit Sheduklim to all those in need, and we should be zeicher to see the Bias Koyel Tzedek b'meher of Yameinu Amen. Be well.